across the country and the world during this busy time of the semester. Typically, the senior class campaign is comprised of a variety of events, both educational and fun, with along of a component of fundraising for the Cadet Emergency Fund. But this year, the campaign has been scaled back, and so we have 2 events and possibly a third one over the course of the month of May. Now, I know we're all excited to hear about student loans, we're like dreading it. So please join me in welcoming Marissa Barros from the Student Financial Services to learn more about the payment process and answer our questions about student loans.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If not, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Michelle, you can hear me, correct?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I know you had to unmute yourself to answer that question. Okay. Bear with me, everyone. I'm fairly new to this, doing Google Meet, so you'll have to excuse me if I do something technically wrong that I will quickly try to fix. So bear with me for one moment while I get my presentation on. So managing student loans, I'm assuming that most people here, or everybody here, is a senior getting ready to graduate. A couple of the beginning slides won't necessarily have to do with repayment, just financial aid in general. So bear with me and I will get to the important stuff that you need to know. This presentation does have links in it. So if I send this off to you, if you want to have it emailed to you, just let me know. And I can email you the actual presentation that has the links to some other information. Bear with me. Sorry, one sec, bear with me. So financial aid comes in several different forms. A lot of people think financial aid is just free money. It includes loans as well. So like it says, grants, scholarships, loan, or sometimes paid employment. All of these forms help you, the students meet their college expenses. The most important thing you need to know about loans. Loans are funds you have to pay back. And I say that because I do have some students that believe loans don't have to be paid back. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. They are funded by the US government, the Department of Education, the federal loans are. They're awarded by the college. So federal loans are, you might know them as Stafford loans or subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The maximum amount that you can get per year is set by the Department of Education. Different loan types depending on the results of your FAFSA and the financial need that you have. There's subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, and Parent Plus loans. The subsidized loans are loans where you do not have to pay interest while you're in school. So there's no interest being charged while you were in school. The unsubsidized loans are exactly the opposite. You do have interest that was charged while you were in school. There's also Parent Plus loans. Those loans were loans that were taken out by your parents, and it's their financial responsibility to pay back. They may have you pay it back for them, but on paper, it is their responsibility entirely. So again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat feature, and then when I'm finished, I will take a look at those and answer those. Students who take out a maximum of their federal Stafford loan every year would end up borrowing $27,000 at the end of the 4th year, not including any interest that has been accruing if you have an unsubsidized loan. I do have an asterisk that says there are certain circumstances where you may be awarded more than a certain amount. That's depending on if you're an independent student, which means you don't put your parents on the FAFSA, or there's an instance where your Parent Plus loan, the parent was declined for that. That allowed you to get a little bit more loan. So there are just a couple of circumstances like that. Alternative loans are ones that are funded by a bank or called a lender, such as Wells Fargo, Citizens Bank, Sallie Mae, your local credit union. They're certified by the college, which means that once it's approved, I was the one who told them that, yes, you could get the loan. Yes, the amount was okay, and when I would like the funds. And it gets dispersed directly to the college. Interest, the things that we love. Interest is a loan expense charged for the use of borrowed money. It's paid by a borrower to a lender, and it's calculated as a percentage of the unpaid principal amount of the loan. I do have a link on here for historical interest rates that they've been for the past few years. Capitalization. You'll hear this word sometimes. People will tell you that the loan capitalizes at the end. So what happens?
Question.
Oh, sorry.
There's a quick question right now that
sorry.
That we've just been asked by Patria. She wants to know if subsidized loans do not have interest while in school, but does this change once we have graduated, and when does it start accruing?
Yes, so subsidized loans do not stay interest-free after you graduate. It will start accruing interest after you graduate and will continue on at that point. But while you're in school, it is not charged. Okay. Is that it for Michelle for the question?
Yes, it just seemed really timely, so I wanted to make sure that.
Sure. Perfect. Okay. So with capitalization, any interest that has been charged on your loan, when the loan is at the end, so when you're done and you're about to graduate and you've graduated, they take all that interest that was charged, they add it on to the end of the loan amount, and then they charge you interest on that new amount. So it's a bigger amount than your original loan. Everyone does this. So federal Stafford loans have this, banks have this. It's a way for them to make more money off of you, but it has to be done. It's just part of the rules of it. It occurs during specific times during the life of the loan. So sometimes it's done at the end, just like the federal loans are. They just do it when you are done with enrollment. That's when they will do the capitalization, when they'll add that amount on to the end. Certain banks, other banks may add it quarterly. They may do that monthly to try to retrieve more money, and then your loan debt gets a little bit bigger, unfortunately. Interest then accrues on that new higher balance. So it's always good to pay off your interest if you can while you are in school, even a little bit. Sometimes parents have done that for the students and you may not even know. So I do have a link to a loan capitalization calculator. It'll explain to you when you click on that link how that works and how much more money you get charged on based on the amount of your loan. And this is for managing loans while in school. I had, when I did this presentation another year, there was a couple of juniors that were in the crowd, so I had this included for it. Senior year, which I'm sure you've done already, you're going to be getting an email from me tomorrow that will tell you that you need to complete online loan exit counseling. So, and I'll give the link in my email. It's an online counseling session. It's going to explain to you all the different repayment options. It'll have you choose a repayment plan. It goes into some good information. So it's important that you complete that. Again, I should have that in the email to you tomorrow. If you don't see it by the end of the day tomorrow, let me know. If you have alternative loans, which again are loans by banks, so the ones from the Sallie Mae's and the Discovers and all that, check with the lender to find out your repayment details, because the exit counseling is only for your Stafford loans. Federal loan repayment plans. So there are many repayment plans that the Department of Ed offers you for your Stafford loans. The basic one, and what the majority of our students at Mass Maritime seem to choose, is this one right here. It's called the Standard Repayment Plan. Payments are a fixed amount. The loan is paid off within 10 years, and you will pay less over time than with any other plan. So the fact that most people are choosing this, and the fact that we have a very low default rate at Mass Maritime, meaning most students are paying back their loans and are not going into default, that means that this is working for them, and their income was enough to help them repay their loans. This is another repayment plan type. It's called graduated. So it starts off as a small loan, and then it slowly gets a little bit higher and higher in the monthly repayment amounts. You'll pay more over time than with this type. Extended, you must have more than $30,000 in federal loans. So again, most of you who just took the regular Staffords out would have $27,000. So you wouldn't be included in this. But again, you'll pay more over time with this than with the standard 10-year plan. They have one called Pay As You Earn. Payments will be 10% of your discretionary income. So discretionary means anything that's income that you're not using for things like mortgage, car loan, gas, things for your rent, anything like that. They're not looking at. They're looking at your discretionary income, funds that aren't tied to that. Payments are recalculated every year. You have to update your income and your family size every year with them. If you still had an outstanding balance after 20 years, any balance after that would be forgiven. Revised Pay As You Earn. This can be more than the standard plan for monthly payment. They're recalculated each year, just like the other one. And I do have a link for the difference between the two, because there's specific little differences in this, and I can't get into all of those on here, but they have a great comparison chart, and I just wanted to give you that link in case anyone wants it when I send it to you. There's also income-based repayment plans. You have to, again, update the income and family size. This one would be 10 or 15% of your discretionary income. And any outstanding balance would be forgiven after 20 or 25 years. Like I told you, multiple repayment plans here. This one's called income contingent. It'll calculate at 20% of the income or amount you would pay on a repayment plan with a fixed payment over 12 years. It's recalculated each year. And you must have a pretty much high debt for this one in order to qualify for it. Federal consolidation. You might have heard a lot of people talk about consolidating their loans. This allows you to take all of your federal loans, put it into one new federal loan called a consolidation loan. And the interest rate you get is a weighted average of all your loan interest rates over the years, rounded to the nearest 1/8. And there's no cap on the interest rate. So for most students that are seniors at this point, the past few years, your interest rate hasn't jumped in extreme from a high one to a low one. You guys have been always in the 4s or the 5s for interest rates. So it may not be helpful to do a consolidation loan on yours. It might not make a big difference. You could always look at it. You can talk to the your loan servicer about it for your Stafford loan, and have them calculate to see if it's helpful to you, but it may not be. Alternative loan repayment plans such as Sallie Mae and all them, you have to contact them to find out their different repayment options. Every bank is different. If you were going to consolidate, you can't consolidate your bank loans with your Stafford loans. That's not possible with the federal consolidation program. However, there are banks that offer to consolidate your federal into their bank loan. So the opposite way. I do put a warning that when you combine your federal with your alternative loans, you will lose all the benefits that you had with the Stafford loans. Anything you had, like for instance, 270 days to go into default, Any different little benefits that you had with federal loans will be lost with that. So things to know. You can change your repayment plan at any time. You can call your servicer and say, for instance, you started off on the standard plan. So you thought, okay, this is great. Then something happened with your job and now you can't make those payments. So you can call your servicer and say, I'd like to switch plans. So they are charged with telling you about the different plans, seeing which one fits you best for your financial situation. So you should definitely contact your servicer if there's any problem financially where you need to change your plan. There is no prepayment penalty. So if you have extra amount of funds that you want to pay, that's over and above your monthly amount, you have the right to pay that to that lender. They cannot penalize you for paying off your loan early or paying extra money towards your loan. I always say keep in touch with your loan servicer. That way you can avoid anything delinquency or default. And I always say to try to pay extra funds towards your loan with the highest interest rate. Usually it's your bank loan, the Sallie Mae's and Discovers and all that. If you have extra funds, put it towards that loan. You don't have to do it so much towards your Stafford, but those loans would be better to get rid of first. Loan default. So you're considered delinquent after the first day of missing a payment. 90 days delinquency, the loan servicer, which is the person that's handling your repayments, will report it to the credit bureaus. So on your credit report, it will show after 90 days. That's actually more lenient than even credit cards or any other kind. They usually will put it on your credit report after 30 days. You are in default if you remain delinquent for a whopping 270 days. It takes that long for you to go in default on your federal Stafford loans. Alternative loan default is different. You go into default after 3 months of delinquency. Any delinquency you have or late payments that you do where you have your parents or someone else as a cosigner, that is shown negatively on their credit report. So it's very important that you keep your payments on time, especially for the cosigner as well as yourself. The banks can demand immediate repayment of the balance. Sometimes they'll start seeking repayment from the cosigner, sometimes not even when you're in default yet. So the banks are pretty strict. Your loan will get referred to a debt collector. They'll have collection fees that are added to your loan balance. The lender may take you to court or have your wages garnished, which means that they'll take it right from your paycheck. So some of you have probably also heard of public student loan forgiveness. That's where they forgive the remaining balance on your federal loans. You have to be working full-time for a qualified employer, and they do have information on that. The loan is forgiven after 120 qualifying monthly payments. So what does that mean? It means that you have to have paid 120 payments on time. So if you're late once, then you're not included. Then you'd have to start the clock again, where you're making, 120 consecutive on-time payments. You have to apply for that. They started this program way back in 2007. They've just started forgiving loans, and most applications have been declined, mostly because either you didn't qualify in the first place, you did something wrong on the application. So it's important that you read their instructions carefully if you're going to apply for that. So some of the positions that would be qualifying for work is a government organization, state or local as well, a nonprofit, AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps. I do put a little note in here just to say that public student loan forgiveness may or may not continue to be offered in the future. It's at the whim of the administration. So right now it's still on, it hasn't been terminated, but to say that 6 years from now, will it be terminated? It could be. And I do have a link on that here as well. So final tips for managing your loans. Know how much to pay and to who. So keep a good either notes on your computer, however you want to do it, of who you're paying back, the interest rate, how to contact them. You have to try to keep a chart like that. That would be helpful for you. Understand the terms of the loans, meaning the repayment terms. Is there any benefit for you doing, let's say, auto debit, where your money gets taken right out of the bank monthly? Sometimes they'll give you a benefit like that, where they'll reduce your interest rate because you do that. So you always have to check on that. There's also loans where they release the cosigner. So you may have a loan where the terms say the cosigner can be released after so many on-time payments by the student. So sometimes they do have that feature. Define your short and long-term goals for what you want to do finance-wise, when you want to have the loans paid off by, and develop a budget plan that helps you obtain those goals. Keep good records. Select a repayment plan that is best for your situation. Like I said, you could start off with the standard plan. If something happens financially, you can always contact your servicer and change it instead of just not paying and going into delinquency. Take advantage of any loan forgiveness programs available. Sometimes your employer that you have will have some type of benefit where they would pay back your loan for you. So you might want to check with employers when you're shopping around and see if they have that as a benefit. And like I said, as always, stay in contact with the company that is servicing your loans. And does anyone have questions? Which I see there's some in the chat area, I believe.
I think that's the one that we covered for Patria before, but anybody?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was.
You can unmute yourself and answer it or type it in.
Does anybody have any questions?
I actually have one.
Oh, hi, Kyle.
Hello. So if I'm on Ed Financial, I know you mentioned like the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans being when they start accruing interest.
Yes.
But when I go on there, I also see things like I have a Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D loans. I can't really tell that some of them are unsubsidized, some of them are subsidized. Do you know anything about the differences in those?
I don't know how they're grouping that on Ed Financial. I can, I'm going to make a note on that, Kyle. I'm not sure how they're grouping those besides being unsubsidized or subsidized or by year that you took it out. Does it correspond with like the number of years that you've been enrolled?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's 4 groups of them. I don't know if they're by year though. They're all different amounts, so I don't think it's by year. I don't know though.
If you want, Kyle, do you know my email address?
Yeah, I can get it.
It's mbarrows@maritime.edu.
Right.
You can just email me a screenshot of that if you don't mind, and then I'll contact a rep at Ed Financial to find out about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Nope, everyone's quiet. Well, if you, Chase.
Hi, I know that student loan interest has been paused during the corona virus. I didn't know if that was also for us students still currently in school, or is that only for students that have, or only for those that have graduated and have started their repayments?
That's for people currently in repayment, I believe. I will triple check on that. But I believe that's for those that are in repayment. But I will triple check and I will email you. I'm writing it down right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marissa.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have a question in the chat box.
Sorry.
Nope, you're
Let me
fine.
click that. What are your thoughts? Okay, so it says, what are your thoughts about the fact that out of 28,000 people that applied for the federal student loan forgiveness program, only 96 were approved? Is it even worth applying for? So those numbers are actually not the current ones, Dayton. I did look that up, and there's more recent numbers, and it's a little bit of a higher amount. What happens with those is that there are a group of people, a large group, that either didn't qualify in the first place, like they didn't have the right employment, they weren't in the right repayment plan, they didn't fill out the application right, there's a ton of those that just got declined quickly just for those reasons. But they are improving with the amount. There is more than 96 that were approved at this point. I don't have the exact number, but I can email you that, Dayton. But you're right, there is a large amount, and that's why I said that you definitely need to read the application thoroughly. Make sure that the employer that you're going to work for does qualify under that. Fill out everything. Make sure you don't miss anything, and then sit tight, because it is 10 years. Thank you for that question, Dayton. Anyone else?
Do you have, I guess, questions that you typically get maybe from people? I'm just trying to think of something that might be helpful for the students. And I mean, you gave a lot of helpful tips, but I didn't know if there was anything additional.
Not that I can think of right now. I'm trying to think of any other areas that I could touch on a little further. I think just that another thing is that if you don't know who your loan servicer is by now, if you don't know who you're paying back your Stafford loans to, or your bank loans, if it's something different than what the original loan was taken out for, if you're just confused about who to contact, you can certainly email me or contact me. By email would be best right now since we're working from home, but by email, and I can certainly look up that information for you and get you that contact information for both Stafford's and your alternative bank loans. Anything else?
Doesn't look like there's any more questions, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Marissa Barros, for sharing your information with us tonight. Also, thank you for everybody who's joined in. Next week, we have Bucks for Bucks, a day of caring on May 19th, where the Academy is asking the MMA community, parents, friends, cadets, and alumni to come together to do acts of kindness and volunteering with proper social distancing, of course. Also, part of the event we will hope that you can join us for is the real world financial advice at 5 p.m. on May 19th. Thank you again, Marissa, and for coming out tonight. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great night and good luck with everything.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Great job, Jenna.